Hello and welcome to CCC TV, where CCGs and RPGs are a way of life. I'm Card Counter Chris. Welcome to today's deck tech. Everybody's been playing Orzhav Sack, and the deck's good. A lot of people are running Sephiroth. A lot of people are finding value with the new Sack outlets. I wanted to do something a little different. My favorite card from the Final Fantasy set was Cecil Dark Knight. I think having a 2/3 Death Touch for 1 mana that could flip into a 4/4 lifelink is insanely pushed. My favorite card, checking out the spoilers for EOE, was Sunset Saboteur, and 4/1 Menace with a ward to discard a card seems insanely pushed to me. Naturally, these two feel like they belong in the same sort of deck. So while everyone else has been testing Sack, this has been what I've been on, straight aggro. And, you know, there is downsides for Sunset Saboteur, but you can get rid of that by just removing the opponent's creatures, which Black and White is really good at doing. So we're going to go through the list today, kind of give my thoughts, opinions, and how the list works, and we'll take it all from there. We are an aggro deck at heart, so we are playing 7 1-drops. I'm only running 3 Cecils because they are legendary. You can't play multiples, and you don't want them clogging the hand. So 3 seems good enough to be able to find it consistently without having a whole bunch of copies in hand acting as dead cards. Lightstall Inquisitor has an amazing effect. It's a 2/1 for 1 with Vigilance, and you get to make one of your opponent's cards cost more or come into play tapped. And either way, if we're aggro and we can do anything to push the opponent's turns down the line, it's just a really strong play. Voice of Victory is really good for shutting down counter spells. It's also really good at forcing your opponent to not interact with your turns, so ops and whatnot become more awkward, and just general lines of play become constricted. The 1/1 tokens do come into play, and we'll go over that here in a little bit, but just a solid 2 mana beater. We already kind of went over Sunset Saboteur. 4/1 Menace is great. Ward discard a card, make sure you're staying ahead. And the downside's really not a downside when everything your opponent plays dies. Servandum is also in the deck, but it is legendary, so just kind of like the Cecil, we're not playing full copies. Right now, I've been happy with 2. 2/2 Vigilance Menace is great for 2. The effect, if they're killing your other things, means it has the potential to grow and give you a little bit of residual life gain. And at 4 mana, it's very relevant to be able to still be a potential kill spell late in the game. It should be noted that if your Servandum is at 4 and it gets hit with an opponent's Sheltered by Ghost, you can target the Sheltered by Ghost to get your Servandum back. It'll lose the counters, but there are some ways and some pieces of removal that the Servandum does dodge, and that is not irrelevant. The last aggro piece of the creatures comes in with Dark Knight's Greatsword. Not really a creature, but it sort of is with the job select. We're playing this as a finisher because as soon as we play it for 3, and in 90% of cases this is correct, we could go on and equip by paying 3 life and put it onto one of our 2-drops, and then just hit for more damage with like a Sunset Saboteur or a Vondum, or force a trade that they really didn't want with a Cecil. It's a 3 of because you're getting more damage and it's kind of like a pseudo haste. But anymore, and the curve's just kind of not going to support it. We are wanting to stay low. We're wanting to stay more in the 1 to 2 range. The other 2 creatures we have that we haven't really talked about are the draw package for Dark Confidants. Everything in the deck is 3 or less minus Raise the Past. Means we're probably not killing ourselves off Dark Confidant, but we do want the card draw. And then 3 Enduring Innocence. This is just going to enable pretty much everything in the deck that is not Sunset Saboteur to draw us cards. Even Dark Knight's Greatsword will, because the token will proc Enduring Innocence before the Dark Knight's Greatsword is attached to it. And it also works with Voice of Victory tokens, even if you don't have a creature in hand. So just phenomenal card draw, and it's another way to gain lifelink to keep the life total up and relevant, which is important, especially when you're running something like Cecil. Speaking of flipping Cecil, it's never the goal, but it's always nice when it happens. And in combination of playing Cecil and Dark Confidant and Shocklands and Starting Town and Dark Knight's Greatsword, it's not too hard to flip. Like, don't go out of your way to do so, but it is a happy surprise that happens pretty often. On the right side here, we have removal. We're going to be playing 2 Seamrips. People are playing up the curve. You probably don't want more right now. It does have a lot of aggro targets that it can hit for creatures. It gets rid of non-land permanents, so it does also hit things like Cauldron and some other cheap interaction removal like Sheltered by Ghosts, other Seamrips, stuff like that. Sheltered by Ghost is fantastic for the lifelink and the Ward 2, which is super relevant on keeping our things alive. Flooding the board and making them spend all their resources to kill one thing is a really good way to push more damage. It does say exile target non-land permanent, so it is also another way that we could get rid of something like a Pinnacle Star Cage that could just be blowout for the deck. Get Lost hits everything but artifacts, essentially. So it's not a Star Cage answer, but we still want to. I generally am not a fan of Get Lost because I don't like giving my opponent map tokens. But when we're playing an aggro deck, if my opponent wants to take a turn off to spend map token mana, I'm perfectly happy to let them do so as I keep going face. Finally, rounding out the main board, we have Erase the Past, which returns all of our cards with creature cards mana 2 or less from the graveyard to the battlefield. Really good post-wipe, really good on swingy turns. It's kind of our reach at the end of the game as well sometimes. And I mean, it hits literally all of these things. Going into the sideboard, we're running 2 Authority of the Consuls. This is great in your aggro matchups. Life gain's not bad. Having your opponent's creatures come in tapped is super relevant, especially with the menace from Sunset Saboteur and Servandum. Like I said, Pinnacle Star Cage can be an issue. Cathar Commando solves some of that and is still a body that we can play reliably at a 2-drop spot, and it also works very well with Raise the Past and the rest of the synergies of the list. We've got 3 Rest in Peace here and the 4th one down here, so we're playing the full suite. It's really good against Gruul Delirium to shut down their deck. It's really good against Yuna. It's really good against Reanimator. It could turn off Cauldron targets for Vivi. And it's also good against the sack decks. Now, if they're playing Servandum, you'll note that whenever a creature you control dies or is put into exile, you put a 1/1 counter on Servandum. So they will still get Servandum triggers if they're running it in their sack lists. But the other effects are all die effects, which means when the card goes from play to the graveyard, Rest in Peace is a replacement effect to exile those, so you can shut down triggers from sack decks with Rest in Peace. We're playing 4 Duresses. This is mainly for control matchups to just make sure that we can get out removal and board wipes. It's also good against Smuggler's List. We can't hit the actual creatures from Smugglers, but we can hit some of the enablers. You can also play it in Reanimator to try to get rid of some of the Zombifies, things like that. Black staple disruption for, the last 20 years. Why wouldn't we be running it? And then we're also running 3 Shrouded Shepherds. This is our way of dealing with tokens. It's also really good against sack. And I've played it against Delirium too, because they do have like a lot of X1 creatures, and you could just get a lot of value from that as well. On the other side, you still do have just another creature that can, do things, and it's not irrelevant. But while everyone else is trying to make massive synergy and scrying and drawing 3 and everything else, my viewpoints have been that the meta seems kind of inconsistent with decks. The mana's not there for a lot of archetypes. A lot of decks seem to be like beholden to good draws or, finding the right sequencing cards in the right order. And I made this list because I wanted to be able to just play good, strong things where the deck is consistent. And then there is enough synergy that if certain things come up, like Sunset Saboteur into a Dark Knight's Greatsword, you can have really splashy, swingy turns. But I wanted something, especially early on in the format, where I could say it just works. With that said, I've only had 2 days of testing. This is going to be day 3 of the new EOE set. So I'm not saying this deck's tier 1. I'm not saying this deck is finalized. But from my experiences for the first 2 days, where the meta's been and what's going on, this deck has been very, very good for me. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, I would love to hear your feedback. Put it down in the comments section. This is my first full-length video back to YouTube. Likes are going to help out tremendously. I am trying to make more content and do things. If you found this useful or helpful, please hit the like button. And we're pushing 100 subscribers. Small number to some people, big number to me. If you found some value in this content, do me a favor and throw me a sub. We will be back with more deck techs and more content as I get deeper into EOE. We will be having more shorts up to the channel. And if you want to see this deck or other decks being played, you can find me on Twitch. All the links are going to be in the info section down below. Thanks for your time, everyone. Have as much fun with EOE as I've been having, and I'll see you all next time.